Okay, we are live. Hello. Okay, so today I'm going to be reading Saved by a Saint. I am so ready. But you know the drill. We first have to start with voice warm ups. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Yep, yep, yep. Boom. Okay, let us begin.
Right? Tragedy, strategy, tragedies. Hello, good morning to you. What do you like? What do you do? What do you do? Hey, it's Hadar. Today I'm going to share with you the ideal morning pronunciation practice. You want to think of it as a physical workout or a yoga practice that you do in the morning to get energized for the day, but also to build muscle. And this is exactly the same thing, but in this case, we're talking about the articulation organs. You want to do that in the morning to set yourself up for pronunciation success, but also to build the muscles of your articulation organs like the tongue and the lips and the jaw. Now, I recommend doing it every single day so you're more in control of the sounds that don't exist in your native language, but it's also going to help you sound more clear in your native language as well. You can do it in the morning, but you can also do it before going into a meeting or before having an important speaking gig. Okay, let's get started. But before that, if you are new to my channel,
begin.
then hi and welcome. And this is the place for you if you want to speak English with clarity, with confidence, and freedom. So be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get notifications so you don't miss out on any valuable lesson. Let's begin with massaging your jaw. It's always good to become aware and kind of like relax all unnecessary tension. We're going to start with that and end with that. There is a muscle here at the jaw hinge that connects between the upper jaw and the lower jaw, and usually we hold a lot of tension there. So I want you to massage it and kind of like try to release all the tension and maybe hum. We're also warming up the voice, so you don't have the morning voice. And here, the cheeks, and again the jaw. Maybe move it around a little bit with your hands. Okay, a little more. Okay, good. Now we're gonna warm up the tongue. Let's begin by sticking the tongue out, and we're gonna move it to the right and then to the left. To the right. We're going to do this 10 times. Okay, so right, right, left. Okay, now we're going to stick the tongue out and bring it up and down. So stick it out. Keep doing it. I'm going to keep speaking. Again, push it out as if the tongue wants to come out of your mouth. 2 more. And very good. Now let's stick it out and bring it back in really fast 10 times. As far as you can. Okay, good. Let's release tension and blow your lips out. Okay, good. In the next exercise, we are going to clean the teeth with your tongue. So you want to move your tongue around. Keep doing it. Now, this is a really good exercise, especially before a meeting. So you make sure that you don't have green stuff or poppy seeds stuck between your teeth. I got you covered. Keep your lips closed. Good. Relax your lips. Good. Good. Now we're going to use the tongue to massage the inside of the cheek as you're resisting the tongue with your cheek muscles. So, take your tongue, the tip of the tongue, and push it against the inside of your left cheek while the cheek is actually resisting it. So you want to push against. You want your tongue to feel like it's fighting something as you're massaging it. And get to all the different places inside your mouth. And to the right. Good. And now let's do a trill to relax the tongue. For some of you, this is going to be really easy if you have the trilled R in your language. If you don't, you can just do another lip trill. And now we're going to do it while going up and down in pitch. Massage the jaw a bit more. Very, very good. You're starting to feel your mouth, to feel the tongue, which is good because we need the tongue to articulate the sounds, and to be able to do it clearly, we need to be in control of the tongue. Now we're going to warm up the lips. So push the lips forward as if you're pushing it for a kiss, an exaggerated one, and pull it to the sides. Forward. Now try to keep the cheeks out of the way, right? You don't want to go like this. Okay, you don't want to get used to engaging your cheeks when pulling the lips. Sometimes we need that to articulate some of the sounds, like the E and the A, and we want to be able to control these muscles. So just the lips, the corners of the mouth, and forward. One more time. Okay, very good. Make sure you're not holding tension in your shoulders. If you do, just tell your shoulders to relax. Tell your face to relax. Okay, good. Now we're gonna go into a few sounds. Let's start with the tip of the tongue consonants. Let's begin with the T sound. Ta 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 ta. Make sure it's just the tip of the tongue touching the upper palate. Ta 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 ta. Da 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 da. Na 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 na. La 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 la. Let's do it together. Ta 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 ta. Da 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 da. Make sure it's light. Na 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 na. La 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 la. Ta 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 ta. Da 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 da. Na 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 na. La 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 la. And now we're gonna move the tongue back a bit and switch between S and Z. Now we're gonna move on to consonants created with the lips. We're gonna start with a P sound where you bring the lips together and release air. P, 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 p. And then the voiced version of it. B, 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 b. And then we're gonna go to the nasal version of it. Ma 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 ma. Pa 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 pa. Ba 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 ba. Ma 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 ma. Again. Pa 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 pa. Ba 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 ba. Ma 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 ma. Let's add vowels to it. And we're gonna use the consonant M. Ma ma my. Ma ma my. Ma ma my. So we're going into an I diphthong. You want to drop your jaw and then raise the tongue for an E sound. Ma-ma-my, my, my. And then we're going to go into ma-ma-may. Okay? Now we're going into the A as in day diphthong, starting with an E, shifting into an E. Ma-ma-may, ma-ma-may, ma-ma-may. Then we're going to do a long O as in go. Ma-ma-mo, ma-ma-mo, ma-ma-mo. Good. The next diphthong is going to be mama-moy, mama-moy, mama-moy. Oi as in toy. Mama-moy, mama-moy, mama-moy. And finally, we're going to use the ow diphthong. Mama-mow, mama-mow, mama-mow. Just like in mouse. Mama-mow. So we're going to do all 5 of them, one after the other. Mama-my, mama-may, mama-mo, mama-moy, mama-mow. Let's do it again. Mama-my, mama-may, mama-mo, mama-moy, mama-mow. One last time. Mama-my, mama-may, mama-mo, mama-moy, mama-mow. Very good. Now we're going to move to the back of the mouth, pronouncing the k and g. From there, I want you to shift to the high E sound. G-g-gee. G-g-gee. So the tongue pulls back for the g, and then forward for the high E. G-g-gee, g-g-gee. And then k-k-key, k-k-key. Good. So let's do it a few times. G-g-gee, k-k-key, g-g-gee, k-k-key. And then from there, we're going to move on to the tense oo sound, a back open vowel sound. G-g-goo, g-g-goo, k-k-koo, k-k-koo, g-g-goo, k-k-koo, g-g-goo, k-k-koo. Make sure you push the lips forward for the oo sound. Let's do it 2 more times. G-g-goo, k-k-koo, g-g-goo, k-k-koo. Very good. And now I want you to yawn. Kind of like raise the soft palate by yawning. Good. And let's find the voice and bring the voice to the chest. Hello, hello, good morning. Hello, hello, good morning. So you want to bring your voice to the chest. Hello, hello, good morning to you. Hello, hello, good morning to you. And then let's bring the voice to the head. Hello, hello, good morning to you. Hello, hello, good morning to you. You want to feel the vibrations here? And maybe a little bit to your nose. Hello, hello, good morning to you. Hello, hello, good morning to you. Okay, let's move on to some tongue twisters. Let's start with my favorite, unique New York, unique New York, unique New York. Let's do it again. Unique, high oo, high e, unique New York, unique New York, unique New York. Let's say it again a little faster. Unique New York, unique New York, unique New York, unique New York. Now, as you're moving through the days, if you do it every single day, you'll see that it's a lot easier for you to say it faster. The next one is good blood, bad blood. Good blood, bad blood. The good has that back open as in book, cook, and look. And the blood has a cup sound. Good blood, good blood. I hope you can hear the difference. Bad blood. Here we have the as in cat forward front vowel. Bad blood. Good blood, 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 bad blood. The next one is tragedy, strategy. Tragedy, strategy. Ch, ra, j, d, strategy. Tragedy, strategy, 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 tragedy, strategy. Good. I used to confuse this one all of the time. Let's do some TH warm-ups. So let's start with just sticking the tongue out and pronouncing a voiced TH versus a voiceless TH. Now we're going to work on transitions. N to TH. L to TH. You can also use the voiceless TH. Very good. And now STH. Make sure you stick the tongue out. The tongue is not too tight against the teeth, so the air comes out. Let's do it a few more times. Very good. Relax your lips. Release air. and massage your jaw again. Good. Very good. Finally, let's do some chunks. What do you? 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 What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Next one is going to go. Gonna go, gonna go, gonna go, gonna go, gonna go. Gonna go, gonna go, gonna go, gonna go, gonna go. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. She's gonna go, she's gonna go, she's gonna go, she's gonna go. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go to the office, I'm gonna go to the office, I'm gonna go to the office, I'm gonna go to the office. Next one is could have. Could have, coulda, coulda, coulda. Coulda, 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 coulda. Notice that the D is really, really light. It sounds like a flap T, like a ra, like an R in Spanish. Ra, pero, coulda, coulda, coulda. I coulda, I coulda, I coulda. I coulda, I coulda, I coulda. I could have done that. I could have done that. I could have seen it. I could have seen it. I could have been there. I could have been there. I could have done it. I could have done it. I could have seen it. I could have seen it. I could have been there. I could have been there. Coulda, 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 coulda. Shoulda, 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 shoulda. Should have. Shoulda, 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 shoulda. Woulda, 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 woulda. Would have. Would have. Woulda, woulda, woulda. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Okay, that's it. To wrap it up, I want you to put your palm on your belly, one on your belly, one on your chest, and try to breathe into the hand that is on the belly. And breathe out. Close your eyes. Breathe in to your belly, not to your chest, and breathe out. And last time, and as you exhale, you can also release a sound. Breathe into your belly. Okay, that's it. As I said in the beginning, I recommend doing it every single day. And when you do, you will feel the improvement and how easier it is for you to articulate sounds in English and in your native language as well. Now, to make it fun and to hold each other accountable, every time you complete this exercise, write in the comments, done. So we know that you did it again today. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. See you. See you later. Okay. All right. Let us begin. Saved by a Saint, Chapter 1, 1819. The Marquis of Merville left London in a bad temper. He had not intended to go to the country until after he had seen Lady Bray. It had been an uncomfortable altercation which had left the Marquis seething with rage. Lady Bray was one of the most famous beauties of the year, and the toast of St. James. She had bestowed her favours on quite a number of men before she met the Marquis. He, however, swept her off her feet, and their affaire de coup was the talk of the beau monde. Everything was going smoothly, or was, the Marquis thought, until Lord Bray returned from the country. It was then he told his wife that he was taking her away from London. Lady Bray was horrified. She was at the height of her success. She was asked to every party and was convinced in her own mind that the Prince Regent could not give a successful dinner at Carlton House unless she was present. She pleaded with her husband, but he was adamant. "You are being talked about," he said. "I will not have my good name dragged through the mud." When Daisy Bray broke the news to the Marquis, he was astonished. It was more or less accepted that when a man had been married for some years, and his wife had produced an heir to the title, he closed his eyes if she indulged in flirtations or something deeper with other men. Lord Bray was, however, a very proud man. When one of his sisters told him what was being said in Mayfair, he came to London. Nothing I can say will alter his decision that we leave for the country on Friday, Daisy said tearfully to the Marquis. But I cannot lose you, he protested. How can you possibly give all the parties and balls you have promised to attend, and of course, me? I mind that more than anything, Daisy said, in a soft voice, putting a hand on his arm. But it is no use. When Arthur makes up his mind, and he has now, I have to obey him. Lord Bray's decision upset the Marquis. But he had gone for consultation to the house in Chelsea, where he had established his mistress. She was one of the loveliest ballerinas appearing at Drury Lane. Lady Les was an exceptional dancer, and an exceptional in anything else she undertook. This included capturing the hearts of the innumerable men who pursued her. She was, however, thrilled when the Marquis turned his attention to her. She was well aware that he was more important and certainly richer than any of her other suitors. She accepted with alacrity that she should move from the lodgings where she was living into the attractive house in Chelsea. It had been occupied by one person before. The Marquis was, however, quite weary of the quest because of her tiresome habit of giggling at whatever he said. She also bit her nails. It was considered fashionable for the Bucks and Bew of St. James to have a Cyprian who was exclusively their own. Cyprian. That was, of course, if they could afford it. No one could afford it better than Marquis of Maverley. He had inherited an enormous estate when he was 26. It had been in his family for 300 years, and had been added to by every generation. His father had been the third Marquis, and he was the fourth. He was extremely proud of his title, his blood, and his position in life. Although he was only 28, the Prince Regent had told him he was to be Lord Lieutenant of the county as soon as the appointment was available. His Royal Highness had also indicated that there would be a position for him at court as soon as he became king. The Marquis accepted all this as his due. He had shone dramatically in Wellington's army and received 2 awards for bravery. He was well aware that although he was so young, statesmen listened to what he had to say. The Prince Regent, too, consulted him on a number of the problems which beset him every day. He had left Daisy Bray in tears at the idea that she would have to leave London without seeing him alone again. He thought he would try to forget her attractions in the arms of Lady Les. The Marquis had neglected Letty over the last 3 weeks. Oh boy, what is happening? Because Lord Bray was in the country, he had spent every evening and most of the night with Daisy. He was thinking now how attractive Letty was when she danced. She knew how to make a man forget his troubles when she put her arms around his neck. He had to go first to a dinner that was taking place at the Duke of Bedford's house in Islington. He was feeling depressed, and it did nothing to revive his spirits. Actually, he decided that the ladies sitting on each side of him at dinner were bores. None of those present compared in any way with Daisy or with Letty. The dinner dragged on and on until finally it came to an end. Afterwards, there was music and card games at which he was obliged to participate. It was nearly midnight when he finally climbed into his carriage. It was drawn by two superb horses, and he told his coachman to take him to Chelsea. There was a faint grin, which he did not see, on his coachman's face. The footman gave the coachman a wink as they drove off. "It's like old times," the latter murmured beneath his breath. "Them horses used to know their own way there." The coachman chuckled, but what he was thinking was that it was going to be a long night. He knew his wife would complain bitterly when he woke her up just before dawn. It was not far to the Marquis's house in Chelsea, which was near the famous hospital inaugurated by Nell Gwyn. In front of it was a square where trees had been planted. The coachman drew the horses up with a flourish outside the front door. The Marquis got out. It was understood that the footman did not ring for the maid he employed. By this time she would have gone to bed. The Marquis had his own latch key with which to open the door. Inserting it in the lock, he was thinking that at this hour Letty would have come back from the theatre. She would be in bed, but would be delighted to see him, especially as he had neglected her for so long. She would hold out her arms and be far too clever to reproach him in any way. He opened the door. As he expected, there was a light in the hall from candles in two silver sconces. He brought them up from his house in the country. He had given orders that they were always to be left alight. If he arrived unexpectedly, he had no wish to fumble in the dark. He shut the front door behind him and put the key in his pocket. He took off his hat. He took off his tall hat. He was about to put it on the chair where he usually left it. It was then he saw there was another hat already there. It was the same shape, in fact, almost identical. He stared at it in surprise. He wondered when he had left it there and gone home with it. Suddenly he was suspicious. He put his own hat down on a table in front of a gold-framed mirror. This had also come from his house in the country. Deliberately, quietly, he went up the thickly carpeted stairs. There was a small landing with a door on either side of it. One led into a small room that was seldom used. The other room was much larger and was where Letty slept. The Marquis had gone to a lot of trouble to furnish it to his own taste. The extra-large bed had a golden corolla above it from which fell curtains that were of the finest silk. He had excellent taste. He hated the harsh colors and tawdry decorations that were to be found in most Cyprian's bedrooms. If he was going to keep a mistress, then he was determined that her background should be to his taste and not hers. Very soft colors decorated Letty's bedroom. The expensive materials used were the envy and admiration of the other girls who danced with her. The carpet was a fine Aubusson. The pictures on the walls were by French artists. The furniture had come, like much of the Prince Regent's, from the palace at Versailles after the Revolution. As the Marquis reached the landing, he stood still for a moment before he reached for the handle. It was then, as he heard Letty laughing, he was frozen into immobility. For a moment he did not believe his ears. Then, as the laugh was followed by a man's deep voice, he realized that Letty was betraying him. It was an unwritten law that when a Cyprian was housed and kept by a protector, she was faithful to him for as long as he was generous to her. The Marquis had certainly been that. Letty's diamonds and pearls were sensational. He had somewhat neglected her these past weeks, yet it had never struck him for a moment that she would take another lover, and certainly not in his house. without first ending their association. The fact that she had done so made him very angry. He contemplated for a moment walking into the bedroom and telling her exactly what he thought of her. Then he knew it was beneath his dignity to do so. Oh, don't know what is happening. When the Marquis was angry, he never raised his voice or ranted at anyone. Instead, he became icily calm and merely spoke in a voice in which every word cut like a whiplash. Now he turned and walked down the stairs. Picking up his hat, he stood for a moment looking at his reflection in the gold-framed mirror. Then, deliberately, one by one, he blew out the 4 candles that lit the hall. He wondered if it would alert Letty to the fact that he had been there. At any rate, tomorrow morning she would receive a note from his secretary telling her to vacate the premises. Then there would be no doubt in her mind what had happened. Having put out the candles, he went out of the house, closing the door quietly behind him. The coachman and footman had settled themselves as comfortably as they could on the box, expecting a long wait. They therefore stared in astonishment when the Marquis returned so soon. The footman sprang down and opened the carriage door. "Take me home," the Marquis said quietly. "Very good, my lord," the coachman replied. The door was shut and the carriage started off. As it did so, the Marquis decided that he would go to the country. He had no wish to see Daisy again, looking at him unhappily while her husband glared. And he had finished completely and absolutely with Letty. He had a sudden longing for the quiet and beauty of Mervale Hall. He would ride his horses over the estate knowing that it was his, and his alone. No one could take it from him. When he reached his house in Berkeley Square, he gave several sharp orders to the night footman. He then went upstairs to his bedroom where his valet was waiting for him. The Marquis had learned during the war to sleep deeply and completely when he had the chance. He could wake at whatever time he chose. Nevertheless, he told his valet to call him at 7:30. He also ordered his travelling phaeton should be brought round at 9 o'clock. "I am going to the country, Yates," he said. "Follow me in the brake with the luggage, and tell the head chef he is to come with us." "Very good, my lord," Yates answered. He showed no surprise that the Marquis was leaving so unexpectedly. He had been with him, fighting in Portugal and with the Army of Occupation in France. He was always prepared for any emergency without making a fuss. The Marquis, having finished his breakfast, sent for his secretary. He gave him instructions that Letty Les was to leave his house in Chelsea immediately. His secretary, Mr. Barlow, who had been with him for some years, made no comment. He was, however, more concerned when the Marquis told him to cancel all his arrangements for the next week. "All, my lord?" he expostulated. Expostulated. Let's see what that word is. Expostulated. Expostulated.
Expostulate.
Expostulated.
Expostulate.
Expostulated. Okay. Oopsie daisy. So gravy. Expostulated. "But the party on Tuesday night is being given especially in your lordship's honour, and His Royal Highness is expecting you to drive with him on Thursday to Wimbledon to watch a mill." "Make what whatever excuses you like, the Marquis said. Say I have to bury a relative, or take part in a christening, but I'm definitely leaving London. Mr. Barlow sighed, but he merely said in the same way that the other servants in the house took their orders. Very good, my lord. The Marquis set off, driving a new team of horses. Later his anger began to subside a little. It was not so much that he was regretting losing Daisy. It was that he loathed above all things being made to look a fool. That was exactly what Letty had done to him. He thought of the presents he had given her and the trouble he had taken to redecorate the house. He had made it a perfect background for her unusual beauty. He thought, too, that whoever had taken his place in bed last night would also be laughing up his sleeve. He had no wish to know who it was. That was immaterial. What he disliked was that, having trusted a woman, she had proved untrustworthy. The Marquis was not particularly conceited, considering how much he had to be conceited about, but he would have been a fool if he had not been aware that he had an enormous attraction for women. Where Cyprian was concerned, it was not only what he gave her that counted in their affair. They invariably fell in love with him as well. Part of the arrangement was that there would be no recriminations, no reproaches when an affair of that sort came to an end. But where he was concerned, there were invariably tears and reproaches. Also the inevitable questions. What have I done? Why do you not love me anymore? It was not, as he knew only too well, a question of love. Yet a woman like Letty could attract a great number of men, and to whom they meant nothing of any consequence, would inevitably give him her heart. He had grown used to this unusual occurrence. That Letty had betrayed him, however, came as a shock. It was certainly something he had never experienced before, not only with the Lettys of this world, but also with ladies like Daisy. He had admitted to himself often enough that they had little to talk about when he was not making love to them. He could not help feeling he could not help feeling that it was entirely Daisy's fault that her husband had turned nasty. The Marquis was always very particular not to betray his feelings in public. People talked, whoever he was with. It was impossible to keep an affaire de coup a complete secret. But Daisy, in her joy at having captured his affection, had been very obvious. The unrestrained passion in her eyes, her lips, and every movement of her body was apparent to the gossips. The whole of the Beau Monde was soon talking about them. It was therefore to be expected that sooner or later Lord Bray would be informed. The Marquis had to admit that in the circumstances there was nothing else Lord Bray could do but take his wife away from London. This, as the Marquis knew, would cause a further outbreak of chatter. It would undoubtedly reverberate throughout Mayfair. He thought of how his friends, and especially his enemies, would chuckle at his discomfiture. Lord Bray had not challenged him to a duel, which would have been damaging to Daisy's reputation. He was instead taking her to the country. In their home she was for the moment out of danger. Damn it all, the Marquis swore. I have been made to look a fool, not only by Letty Lass, but also by Arthur Bray. He drove his horses with his usual expertise, fast, but in no way pushing them. The sunshine glittered on their harness and shone on the road ahead. The Marcus knew he should have been enjoying himself. The groom sitting beside him was aware that his master's lips were set in a hard line. There was also a frightening expression in his eyes. It made everyone who worked for him feel when they saw it as if a trickle of icy water was moving down their backs. The Marcus drove on. He stopped after about 2 hours to change horses at a posting inn where another team belonging to him was awaiting. While the animals were being changed over, he drank a glass of homemade cider. He refused the wine the innkeeper offered him. He was in fact always abstemious both in what he ate and what he drank. Abstemious? Let us look. A B yes.
Abstemious.
Oh. He was in fact always abstemious both in what he ate and what he drank. Okay. As they started out again, he was thinking of the horses that would be waiting for him in the stables at the hall. He expected to be there within an hour and a half. His secretary had sent a groom across country to alert the servants of his imminent arrival. It was nearly 1 o'clock when the Marcus turned his carriage round a corner on the highway, then pulled them up sharply. Just ahead there had been a collision, and a bad one. A large, overloaded coach could only just have fallen sideways on the road. The panic-stricken horses which had been pulling it were struggling wildly against the sharp shafts. There was a country wagon on the other side of the road with a shattered wheel. Somehow, mixed up in the middle of it all was a pony cart, with the animal that had been pulling it lying down on the ground. There were screams and shouts coming from the occupants inside the coach, and the whole scene was one of chaos. The Marcus handed his reins to the groom and jumped down to the ground. Then he started to create order out of chaos. He ordered some laborers who had appeared to help free the horses belonging to the coach. 2 other men were told to release the shafts of the cart horse drawing the farm wagon. He then asserted those inside the coach, who were either screaming or in tears, to clamber with some difficulty onto the road. One woman seemed rather badly crushed by those who had fallen against her when the carriage toppled over. The Marcus told some boys who were watching with interest to go and find the nearest doctor. The biggest of the boys, who seemed older than the others, told the Marcus he knew where he lived. The Marcus gave the boy a shilling and told him to run as fast as he could. Delighted with his generous tip, the boy set off, and the Marcus looked round him. The man and woman he had helped from the coach were standing disconcertedly by the roadside. They were making no effort to retrieve their luggage, which had been thrown over the roof of the coach and was in the ditch. Some of the lids had come off the boxes, and the contents were strewn over the grass and the road. The Marcus told them to retrieve their belongings. He then looked at the pony cart. Beside it, a girl knelt, stroking the pony's neck. It was lying still. As he reached her, the girl looked up at him, and he saw that she was very pretty. I think my pony is dead, she said in a broken little voice. The Marcus bent down and saw immediately that she was right. It was a very old pony. A wheel had been broken by the coach as it crashed against the wagon. It had hit the animal with enough violence to kill it. Undoubtedly, the Marcus thought the pony would not have lived long anyway. But to the To the girl stroking it with long, thin fingers, it was a tragedy. "I am sorry," he said quietly, "but I am afraid there is nothing that can be done. Do do you think that perhaps I could have him buried?" she asked. "I'm sure that can be managed," the Marcus replied. He saw a laborer standing watching the horses belonging to the coach. They were now more or less under control. "There is a dead pony here," the Marcus said to him, "and the owner wants him buried. Have you any suggestions about where this can be done?" Oh, what is going on? Damn it. Sorry, losing connection. Where was I? Where were you? The laborer realized he was being spoken to by someone in authority, and he touched his forelock. "I'll do it here," he said, if that be what's wanted." "Yeah, that is what I want," the Marcus agreed. "I will pay you for doing so." He walked back to the girl, and the laborer followed him. The Marcus gave the orders because he saw that the girl was fighting back her tears. When the laborer took the sovereign he was offered, his eyes gleamed. He offered to find a friend of his who would help him with the task. "There'd be a bit of a wasteland, sir," he said. "Just to come in the village. We'll put them there." "Thank you. Thank you very much." "Yes, thank you," the girl said in a breathless little voice. "I will come back tomorrow and see where you have buried him." "That's right, miss," the laborer said. "And don't worry. If he wants to put up a tombstone, it'll be there with some wood." "That is very kind of you," the girl said. "He was called Ben, and I have had him ever since I was a little girl." "Okay, and I know he will be missed," the laborer said. She nodded, and the Marcus said, "I think I had better take you home. If I can find someone to repair your cart, you will be able to fetch it later." "Thank you, sir," the laborer said eagerly. "Well, that would be very helpful," the Marcus said. As another sovereign exchanged hands, he knew the man would keep his word. Then he turned to the girl and said, "Now, let me take you home. We can do nothing more here." She went with him to his phaeton, and the Marcus helped her into it. The groom who had been holding the horses' heads jumped up onto the seat behind it. It was not easy for the Marcus to negotiate his way past the upturned coach. The wagon had now been pushed to one side, the horse having been released. Somehow the Marcus managed it, and the road ahead was clear. As he drove on, he asked, "What is your name?" "I'm Christina Churchton," she replied. The Marcus thought for a moment. Then he said, "I think you live on my estate." "Yes, I do," she agreed. "And I know you are the Marcus of Meverley." The Marcus smiled and turned to look at her. She was, he told himself, exceptionally lovely, but she was simply dressed. It was then he noticed that she was wearing a black sash round the waist of her white gown. "I have been abroad during the war," he said, "and since I returned I do not think I have met your family." My father died a fortnight ago," Christina answered. "I live at Four Gables, just outside your park." "Of course. I remember now hearing of your father," the Marcus remarked. "Did he not have a large stamp collection?" "Yes, that is right," Christina said. "He collected stamps all his life, and as your father also had a collection, they used to meet and compare notes." "I remember my father telling me about that," the Marcus said. I'm very sorry to hear that he is no longer with you. I miss him very much, Christina said. There was a forlorn note in her voice which made the Marcus ask, "Are you telling me that you are living alone at Four Gables?" "I No, I have my nanny with me," Christina replied, "and I have written to Papa's brother, but his family live in Northumberland, and it is very, very long way." "It is indeed," the Marquis agreed, "but I do not think you ought to be alone." "I am not alone," Christina said, "but I shall miss Ben. It was the one way I could go and visit my friends, and now I shall have to walk." She spoke so naturally that the Marquis knew she was not asking him to be generous and provide her with some other form of transport. By now they had turned into the village. There was a row of thatched cottages on one side of the road, and on the other wall was surrounding the Marquis' estate. He drove past his own gates. He remembered that further up the road there was a charming red brick Elizabethan house. He had thought when he was small that it had a funny name. He could not, however, remember ever having met Christina. "How old are you?" he asked, "if that is not a rude question." "I am 18, Christina answered. "I will be 19 in 3 months' time." That explained, the Marquis thought, why he had not seen her. He had gone off to war as soon as he had left Aton. He had thought in those days that young girls were a bore and beneath his condescension. Steering his horses down the short drive, he pulled up outside the front door of Four Gables. "I'm going to leave you now," he said, "but I will come and call you on sometime tomorrow and see if I can help you over the loss of your pony." "That is very kind of you," Christina said, "but you must not bother yourself when you have so many other things to see to." The Marquis raised his eyebrows, and she added, "The whole village has been longing for you to come home. They need your guidance on so many things that they have to be done which, of course, were neglected while you were in France." "Neglected?" the Marquis repeated in surprise. It had never occurred to him that while he was away things were not being carried on exactly as they were in his father's time. "The war has made a great difference," Christina said, as if he had asked the question. "Now the men are coming back from the army. They are looking for work." "They will be employed as they always have been on the estate," the Marquis said sharply. She did not speak, and he looked at her. "What are you trying to tell me?" he asked. I'm so sorry. It's not my business," Christina replied. She got out of the phaeton as she spoke. The Marquis followed her as his groom went to the horses' heads. Christina opened the front door, and he walked after her into the small hall. "I want you to explain what you have been saying," he said. "Is there trouble here that I do not know about?" She looked at him uncertainly. "I ought not to interfere," she said, "and I spoke without thinking." "But I want you to think," the Marquis said. "I want you to tell me the truth. What is wrong?" "I think you should talk to the Vicer," Christina said. Vicer. Is that how you say? Vicer. Abstemious.
Vicar.
Ah, Vicar. Vicar. "I think you should talk to the Vicar," Christina said. He is very worried, as Papa was, about the young man having nothing to do. I will certainly see to it, the Marquis said. Thank you for telling me. I will come and see you tomorrow. Thank you for being so kind about Ben. I know you gave that man quite a lot of money, and of course I must pay you back, replied Christina. I should be insulted if he did anything of the sort. The Marquis smiled. Then, thank you. Thank you very much, Christina said again. The Marquis got back into his phaeton, turned it round, and raising his head drove back up the drive. He was thinking as he went that something was unmistakably wrong. It was fortunate that he had found out about it, even though it was in such an unexpected manner. And yet the mere idea of there being anything wrong at Meverley annoyed him. I wonder what the devil it is, he asked as he drove in at his lodge gates. Oh, okay. Okay. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry, just had to make myself some tea. Yeah, I'm gonna try and do this when it's my days off. Currently, I'm working, so on my days off, I will read as much as I can. I got like a few books. One, two, three, four, five, six. About 6 books. I'm just trying to read, try to get better at speaking English. And I think this is one way to read out loud a book. Plus, I got 92 subscribers. Like last week, I had only 88. So I'm growing. 92 subscribers. Yeah. Yo. I think my goal is like right now just to reach like 100 subscribers before the end of the year. I don't have much time, but we'll see. I'm also gonna upload 2 videos right after this. So if you wanna check it out, you can just put on your notifications. This book has about 152 pages, so I'll be done in no time. But for now, I'm just gonna read 2 chapters today. I'm just feeling, yeah. Usually I read maybe 3, maybe 4 chapters. But today I'm feeling a little bit lazy. But we'll see how it goes. Abstemious. Vicar. Okay, what was the other word? Versailles. My voice breaks all the time. Okay, let's see if we can finish chapter 2. Chapter 2. Not a lot of pages, it's fine. Chapter 2. The butler was waiting in the hall when the Marquess arrived. With him were 4 footmen whose livery seemed somewhat ill-fitting. "Welcome back, my lord," the butler said. "It's good to have your lordship back." "I should have come earlier," the Marquess replied, "but I was kept in London. However, I agree with you, Johnson. It is a joy to be back." He looked around the large hall. With the sun shining on the gold frames of his ancestors' portraits, he thought it looked very impressive. "Luncheon's ready, my lord," Johnson said. The Marquess, however, walked towards the room, which was at the far end of the hall. It was where his mother had always sat, and where he had last seen his father. The third Marquess had died while his son was fighting in Portugal, and he had been unable to return for the funeral. Here again everything seemed exactly as it had been when he was a child. The books with their leather covers on the shelves, the pieces of furniture which were very old and had been handed down through the generations. The Marquess, without any comment, turned round and walked down the corridor to the dining room. This was a magnificent room, which could comfortably seat 100 people without its seeming overcrowded. The minstrel's gallery at the far end, with its carved front, had been a delight when he was a small boy. He remembered how he had crept downstairs when his father and mother were giving a party. He would peep at them without being seen. He recalled how radiantly beautiful his mother had looked wearing the Mavely tiara. Round her neck rows of pearls that reached almost to her knees. He decided that one day he would give the same sort of parties. But he doubted if anyone, not even those as beautiful as Daisy, would compare with his mother. The food with which he was served was excellent. Mr. Barlow had been wise enough to warn the cook at the hall that his lordship preferred small meals. As soon as he had finished, the Marquis said, "I now wish to see Mr. Waters. I suppose he is in the State Office." Reconnection. Johnson hesitated, and the Marquis waited. I don't think Mr. Waters is here yet, my lord," he said after what seemed a considerable pause. "Not here?" the Marquis exclaimed. "Why not? Where is he?" "Mr. Waters usually comes in during the afternoons, my lord," Johnson replied. "He did not know that I was arriving today." "No, my lord. We didn't expect your lordship so early, so there was no reason to notify him." The Marquis thought the explanation was rather strange. There was also an expression on Johnson's face that confirmed his conviction that all was not well. Without saying any more, he walked out of the dining room and down a long corridor which led to the State Office. It was at the far end of the house, and, as he remembered, was a large room. The walls were decorated with maps of the state, and black dispatch boxes were piled up in one corner. As the Marquis expected, there was no one there, and the room seemed untidy. The large desk at which Waters worked was piled high with account books, one of them open. The Marquis glanced at it. Then he saw that his estate manager had been working on the accounts for the month. While he was in France, the estate had been left in Waters' hands. He sent an account every month to the solicitors in London to obtain the wages. Okay. Just got a message. Man, don't know what's happening. Oh no. Don't tell me I haven't been... Damn it. Okay.
M. My. To the A as in day, diphthong starting with an E, shifting into an E. Mama May.
just anyway, where was I? The large desk at which Waters worked was piled high with account books. One of them open. Marcus glanced at it. Then he saw that his estate manager had been working on the accounts for the month. While he was in France, the estate had been left in Waters' hands. He sent an account every month to the solicitors in London to obtain the wages. It was arranged the Marcus had made before his father's death. He had thought it was too much for him to cope with the day-to-day difficulties of the state when he was in ill health. He looked at the book now, then began to turn over the pages one by one. Christina Churchton had said that the young men of the village, as well as those returning from the war, were unemployed. It was something he could not understand. When his father was alive, everybody in the village was employed in one way or another at what they called the big house. The best-looking young men started as pantry boys and rose to be footmen. Others worked in the garden or became grooms, gamekeepers, carpenters, bricklayers, or blacksmiths. If they were fond of animals, they were found a place at the home farm. Beverly was a state within a state. It was something that had continued all down the centuries. It was unheard of, unless there was something wrong with them, for the young woman not to be employed at the big house. Marcus went down the list of names carefully. Then he stiffened as he read Jim Hicks. He remembered Jim Hicks well. He had taught him to ride when he had his first pony. Jim had been badly wounded at Waterloo, and the Marcus had gone to find him after the battle. He had been taken to a ruined church which had lost its roof and one of its walls due to cannon fire. There was, however, some shelter left. The wounded had been set down on the stone floor as they were carried from the battlefield. It had taken the Marcus a little time to find Jim. When he did, he saw he had been shot in the chest and had lost a leg. There was obviously no chance of him surviving. As the Marcus knelt down beside him, he said, "I am sorry to see you like this, Jim." With an effort, the man managed to croak. "Us won, didn't us, my lord?" "We won," the Marcus confirmed. "You did splendidly, and it was a great victory." Jim had smiled. Then he had closed his eyes, and the Marcus knew he would not open them again. He could remember all too well what he had felt as he left the church. Jim, who had been a part of his childhood, had gone forever. Now he looked again at Waters' accounts. Turning back a few pages, he saw that Jim's wages had been entered every month since the Battle of Waterloo, a battle that had taken place nearly 4 years ago. The Marcus had a very astute brain, and he knew precisely how Waters had been cooking the books. He was the reason why the men returning from the army and navy were unemployed. Alive or dead, Waters was drawing their wages and putting the money into his own pocket. The mere idea of how so many had been deprived made the Marcus furiously angry. At the same time, he stiffened, and his mouth was set in a hard line. He went back to the study and rang the bell for Johnson. "As soon as Mr. Waters comes in," he said, send him to me." "Very good, my lord." The Marquis hesitated for a moment. Then he asked, "How long have you been working at the Hall, Johnson?" "Since I was 12, my lord," Johnson replied. "That'd been nigh on 37 years." "And you never thought to tell me what was going on?" the Marquis asked. Johnson did not pretend to misunderstand. Your lordship were fighting abroad, and I didn't want to worry you." What he was implying, the Marquis realized, was that he might easily have been killed, in which case he could have done nothing about it. Then Waters would undoubtedly have had Johnson dismissed. The Marquis did not speak, and after a moment Johnson said, "I'm sorry, my lord, and we are all praying that things get back to the way back to being as they used to be." "They will," the Marquis answered, "but I wish I had known about this sooner." He had to admit to himself that it was partly his fault. Wellington had kept him in the army of occupation for far longer than he had expected. I can't read. He knew, of course, that he was being useful to the general by staying in France. He had not only coped with the troops. Diplomats were coming to Paris from every country in the world. There were a great number of decisions to be made, and much to discuss. There was also undoubtedly, for a young man who had spent the years since he had left school fighting the thrill of being in Paris. Anything the French could do to elevate their conquerors' trials and tribulations was done. They did it with an expertise and charm that was irresistible. It was typical of the French that they tried to turn what had been a defeat into a victory. As far as the diplomats and those in the army of occupation were concerned, they succeeded. Now the Marquis was thinking that as soon as he returned to England, he should have come to Mevely immediately. The War Office, however, had required his presence almost daily. The Prince Regent had shown him a friendliness that was the envy of all his contemporaries. How many pages left? Ooh, too many. That was the envy of all his contemporaries. He was always included in the invitations to dine at Carlton House. Because he had been in France, the Prince Regent consulted him about pictures, furniture, and objects d'art, of which he never seemed to have enough. The Marquis would have been inhumane if he had not been considerably flattered by this attention. Besides, after the years of fighting when he lost what amounted to his boyhood, there was the irresistible allure of the beauties like Daisy, and a dozen others. He had gone into the army as soon as he had left school. It was therefore the first time he had come into contact with the Cyprians, who were acknowledged to be the most attractive in Europe. Even Paris could not compete with the loveliness of women like Letty Lass. Then there were incomparables who became the talk of the clubs in St. James because they were new and unusual. The Marquis had kept telling himself he should go to the country. When he suggested it, his friends always had a good reason why he should stay for at least another week. Now he felt guilty that he had neglected what was his most treasured possession. He had been ruminating for more than half an hour when Johnson opened the door and announced, "Mr. Waters, my lord." Waters came into the room. The Marquis, who had not seen him for years, was shocked by his appearance. He had grown enormously fat, was red-faced, and going bald. When the Marquis had seen him last, he had been a fairly young man. He had seemed, by the quickness with which he moved and his sharp brain, an ideal estate manager. Now it was obvious that he drank too frequently and ate too well. On the proceeds, the Marcus thought he had extorted out of the state. The interview did not take long. It was impossible for Waters to deny that he had been helping himself for years by entering false information into the ledgers. He was making money out of men who were either dead or moving disconsolately about the village because they were unemployed. The Marcus gave him exactly 48 hours in which to vacate his house and leave the county. "I'm not sending you to prison," he said in icy tones which seemed to cut like a whip. "But I want an account of what you have in your bank, and I will leave you just enough to prevent you from starving." It was useless. Waters knew to say anything. His fat, florid face had gone very pale, and there was an expression of terror in his eyes. When finally he left the room, he moved slowly, like an old man who could hardly control his feet. Man, I can't believe it stopped recording. Anyway, it's fine. The Marcus rose from his desk and walked to the window. He looked out at the sun shining below on the lake. He asked himself why, when everything in the world was so perfect, must people be so vile, greedy, and corrupt? Then he remembered Christina saying there was a lot for him to do, and he knew it was true. He sent for Johnson. He ordered him to fetch the head gardener, the head groom, and the head gamekeeper to him immediately. It took some time, but he saw them one by one. He ordered them to employ every available man in the village, starting with those who had returned from the war. He could see the excitement in their eyes as they responded to everything he suggested. It was obvious this was something in which they had been hoping. It was after 4 o'clock before he had finished. Then he ordered a phaeton. As it came round to the front of the house, he told Johnson that he wanted 6 footmen in the hall. He was to make sure that their livery fitted them properly. He did not need to be told that Johnson had been kept short of footmen in his absence. Those who were there looked as if they had quickly been taken on once it was known he was on his way home. The Marcus got into his phaeton. He drove down the drive and along the road to Four Gables. He noticed, as he had not done before, that the garden was ablaze with flowers. The shrubs were in bloom and several almond trees in blossom. When he reached the front of the door, he handed his reins to the groom, who was beside him, and stepped down. The front door was open. As he suspected, Christina did not have any servants, so he walked in. I don't know. Sorry. Sorry about that. This is actually supposed to be a live stream, but I don't know what's happening. Uh, yeah, whatever. My OBS. Yeah, the OBS studio is giving me trouble. Anyway, we just got a few more pages. Let me finish with chapter 2. Okay. He thought he would probably find her in the sitting room, and wondered which door that would be. Even as he hesitated, he heard her scream. For a second he thought he must have dreamt it. Then he heard her say, "No, please, leave me alone." "That is something I have no intention of doing," a man's voice replied. Just as the Marquis's hand went out towards the handle, Christina screamed again. The Marquis walked into the room. Christina was struggling against the man who was towering over her. He had his back to the Marquis, and he was pulling Christina close to him. Although she was struggling desperately, she was far too small and fragile to be able to resist him. As the front door was open, the Marquis said in a lofty tone, "I came in." The man who had his arms around Christina started and turned to face him. It was then that Christina managed to struggle free. Without thinking, but instinctively, she ran towards the Marquis and threw herself against him. "Send him away, please! Send him away!" she begged. The Marquis was staring at the man, and recognized him. He was a neighbor named Sir Mortimer Stinger. He therefore remembered how his father had disliked him. They had had a long row for years over the ownership of some acres of land. Sir Mortimer, who was a man of about 40 and well known as a womanizer, said after a moment's silence, "So you have decided to come home, have you, Malvolio? Laden, no doubt, with the spoils of war." "Yes, I have come home," the Marquis replied coldly. "I find there is a great deal for me to do to bring things back to the way they were when my father was alive, and that of course includes you." The late Marquis had forbidden Sir Mortimer to set foot on his estate or have any further communication with him. Sir Mortimer looked angry and retorted, "You were always a very unpleasant small boy, in my opinion, Malvolio, and I do not suppose you have changed with the years." "Not where you are concerned," the Marquis said, "and as this house is on my estate, I forbid you to come here again." "Do you really believe you can give me orders like that?" Sir Mortimer asked furiously. This is a free country, and if I wish to visit Miss Chuston, I shall certainly do so without your permission." He did not wait for the Marquis to reply, but walked past him to leave the room. They heard his footsteps walking across the hall. Christina, who had hidden her face in the Marquis's shoulder, moved, saying, "Thank you. Thank you. You came at just the right moment. He was trying to kiss me. I hate him. He's a horrible man." "I agree with you," the Marquis said. "You must not see him again." I locked myself in the last few times he called," Christina said. "But Nanny has gone to the village, and I thought it was you." "Have you no other servants here?" the Marquis inquired. Christina moved away from him towards the fireplace. She was blushing as she said, "Perhaps you do not understand that things have been very different since the war ended. Many of the country banks closed their doors, and that happened to the one in which Papa kept his money." The Marquis moved across the room to be nearer to her and sat down in a high-backed chair. I want you to tell me more about what has been happening, he said. You were quite right about the Hall. I have discovered that Waters has been cheating the state, and I have been given him 48 hours to leave the county. Christina clasped her hands together. Have you really done that? Oh, thank you. Thank you. He was a horrible man, and has refused to employ any of the men who have come back from the war. He has not repaired the cottages, and has even reduced the pensions of the old people. I will see to it, the marquis said. But I think, Christina, you will have to help me. There must be many other things that have been going on. I cannot know about them unless you tell me what they are. I will tell you, of course. I will tell you now that you have got rid of Mr. Waters. Christina sat down on the rug at his feet. Oh, I am so thankful that you are back, she said. I have prayed every night that you would not be away too long, as things got worse and worse. Then I began to think that perhaps you did not care. How could you think that? The marquis asked. At the same time, he had a little twinge of conscience as he thought of how much time he had wasted with Daisy and Letty. Now, suppose we start at the beginning, he said, and you tell me how you have become involved with Stinger. Christina looked shy. He asked me to marry him several months ago, and Papa told him he would never sanction such a union, and he was not to come here again, but after Papa died he started coming back again. She made a helpless little gesture with her hands. Marcus was aware of how much it had frightened her. What I want you to do, he said, is to pack your things, and you and your nurse must come and stay at the Hall. Christina's eyes opened very wide. Come to the Hall? She queried. It is the only way I can be certain of keeping Mortimer Stinger away, the Marcus explained. He will not dare to come to the Hall, especially if I'm there. That would be wonderful, Christina said. But I must not be a nuisance, or worse still, an encumbrance. You are going to help me, as you have promised to do so, the Marquis said. I want you to put my estate in order, and quite frankly, I have no wish to discuss it with the vicar or anybody else, except you. You put me on the right lines where Waters was concerned. And now you must help me cope with other things. He thought she looked a little indecisive, and added, If your father was here, I know I could ask him. As it is, you have to take his place. He saw by the expression on Christina's face that he had said exactly the right thing. Of course, Papa would have helped you, she said. He took such an interest in the estate, and often discussed it with your father. Then you have to discuss it with me, the Marquis said. And as I have to move quickly, so that there is no more suffering and no more unhappiness, you had better start packing. Christina laughed. Can you really say it, just like that? Of course, the Marquis said. And what I am going to do is to take you back with me now in my phaeton. Then we can settle down and work out exactly what is required in the village, on the farms, and on the estate. He paused before adding, I will send a carriage to collect your nurse and your luggage, and also someone to help her pack. You are so kind and thoughtful, Christina exclaimed. I do not know of any other man who would think of that, and Henry is growing old. She gave a little sigh. That is why it worried me when we could not afford the woman who worked in the house when Papa was alive. One does come in once a week, because I give her material she can make up for her children, but that was all. You told me your relations are in Northumberland. How do we say it? Like North.
Northumberland.
Northumberland. Northumberland. Okay. The Marquis said, "But is there no one else who could look after you?" He was thinking as he spoke that it might be a mistake to have Christina at the Hall without a chaperone. He had suffered so much from the gossips in London. If Christina was his guest, it would not escape the notice of those in the country. As if she was following his thoughts, Christina said, "Perhaps, as I have no chaperone, it would be a mistake for me to come. I will not answer the door again unless I am certain it is not Sir Mortimer." "I want you at the Hall," the Marquis said firmly, "but I am of course thinking of your reputation." Christina gave a little laugh. "It is only people like Sir Mortimer who would say nasty things about me because I was not at home when he called." The Marquis thought that this was an understatement. He was wondering if there was anybody in the neighborhood who could chaperone her when Christina said, "If you are really serious about my my having a chaperone, Miss Dixon is still alive." The Marquis stared at her. "Miss Dixon?" he asked. "She must be 100. She's not as old as that." Christina laughed. "She is 70. Miss Dixon had been the Marquis's governess when he was a little boy of 7. Before that, his mother and his nanny had taught him. They then decided he should have lessons at regular hours every day. Miss Dixon, who was the daughter of a bishop, had been their choice. The Marquis remembered he had been very fond of her. She was a plain woman, but she had a great sense of humor. She had taught him his first lessons extremely well. She had also given him, he knew later, a desire to teach himself by studying the right books. Looking back, he could remember how she had made history come alive for him. During the war, other nations joined Wellington in the effort to defeat Napoleon. It was then he remembered the things Miss Dixon had told him about the Germans, the Austrians, and the Russians. Whether he was fighting beside them or after Napoleon's defeat, meeting them in Paris, it was due to Miss Dixon that he understood them. Eagerly he asked now, "Where is Miss Dixon?" "She lives in the cottage your father gave her," Christina replied, "but it is in very bad repair. The roof leaks, and although I pleaded with Mr. Waters, he would do nothing about it." The Marquis frowned. "Ah, that man ought to be shot," he said. "How dare he refuse to do anything for Miss Dixon?" "He refused to do anything for anybody," Christina said. "But I know she will be thrilled to come to the Hall, and perhaps—" Christina looked at the Marquis anxiously. "Perhaps you could have her cottage repaired while she's not in it." "It will be the first one to be done," the Marquis said firmly. Christina gave a little cry of joy, and he added, "Surely you realize that you and I are going to tidy up the whole place and make certain that everyone is happy. There will not be there will not be a person in the whole of the village who is unemployed unless he wants to be." Christina clapped her hands together. "That is exactly what we want. Oh, thank you. How can you be so wonderful? You have come just when we were beginning to despair." "Ah, yeah, I should have come before," the Marquis said. Christina was not listening. She had jumped up and was running to the door. The Marquis was aware that while they had been talking, there had been a sound outside in the hall. Then he heard Christina cry, "Nanny, what do you think? His lordship is here, and we are going to stay at the Hall, and everything is going to be perfect again, just like it was in the old days when Papa and Mama were alive, oh goodness, and everybody was happy." And the excitement in Christina's voice was very moving. As the Marquis joined her, he saw that she was talking to an elderly woman with grey hair. She looked, he thought, exactly as a nanny should look. He held out his hand, and Nanny courteoused. Courteoused? Courteoused. Oh, I'm that glad your lordship's back, she said. There was just a note in her voice as if she would like to have added, and about time too. The Marquis was reminded of his own Nanny. It was what she would have said. As Miss Christina has told you, he said, I have invited you both to the hall to help me get things straight. Christina and I are going to call on Miss Dixon to see if she will leave her leaking cottage and come with us too. Nanny stared at the Marquis as if she could not believe her ears. Then she said, You are a real gentleman, my lord, just like your father. And now the horrible war's over, we need you here. Go and pack your clothes, Nanny. The Marquis smiled. I'm sending a carriage and someone to help you. There was a sudden glitter of tears in Nanny's eyes. The Marquis knew how desperately worried she must have been about the lack of money, and also Christina's involvement with the Selma timer stinger. Nanny's next words confirmed that this was the truth. I saw that unpleasant gentleman's carriage going through the village as I was coming back, she said to Christina. Has he been here again? His lordship saved me, Nanny, Christina answered. I told you not to open the door, Nanny said sharply. I did not know it was him, Christina said. In fact, I thought it was his lordship. He will not trouble her again. The Marquis interposed firmly. Just as my father would not allow him on the estate, I will do the same. He saw the relief in Nanny's eyes and added, Do not worry. She will be safe enough at the hall. There will be plenty of people there to look after her. I'm thanking God, my lord, Annie said fervently, that you have come just in the nick of time. And that's it. That is it. Damn it. I don't know what's wrong with my live stream, so this will just be a video. Oh, I don't know what happened. So I'm just gonna leave it as a video. Anyway. Thank you for watching. Yeah, nobody was watching. Ciao, ciao.